Yes, hopefully. Oh, yeah. So, vamos a ver. We're live, Dom. Can you hear me, Dom? Can you hear me? So we're live on this beautiful April the 9th on a Tuesday on what is known as Autism Awareness Month. And some time ago, I've told a lot of friends that I would love to create a podcast that's called The Ignorant Interviewer. Why? Because there's one of the beautiful things that I love about God is that we're so different and there's so many lives and so many stories and stuff like that. And sometimes we don't know everybody's life. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know particulars of what they're going through. So I wanted to start a podcast years ago called The Ignorant Interviewer, just to step into a subject and started with saying that I'm ignorant about this topic, right? Why? So it'll give me permission to ask any question that I have. Because sometimes we're timid. We don't know if we're asking it correctly, with the right tone, or we lack information on how to ask it, what words to use. And today's topic is kind of like that, very much that, in regards to autism. So I thank God that I have in my house, I have two amazing friends that have a son in the spectrum of autism. And we talked a lot. And every time we talk about the topic, there's always more and more questions. So today, I get the opportunity to have in my house, in my living room, two amazing friends, a beautiful friend and a weird friend. But Nico and Davida, thank you. Welcome today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
happy to be here and happy to be able to share
Yeah.
some of our journey with all of our friends and viewers today. So,
Well, Salo, you and I have talked about this before. I mean, April's Autism Awareness Month. And, I think a few years back, well, David posts more than I do. I stopped posting on it Because it's Autism Awareness Year for us.
Life.
Every year.
Autism Awareness Life.
Every minute.
Yeah.
And it's from minute to minute. I think Davi's latest video that really touched me also and just reminded me how blessed that we all are to have her in our home.
Yeah.
And leading the house inside the home as a backbone of our home as I lead the family.
Yeah.
And so people have questions to Davi, to me. There's a lot of families that go through a lot of trouble. And not that the child is trouble, not to us at least.
Of course.
But there's an 85% divorce rate, there's stress, there's identity issues because autism becomes your identity. It affects the other children. They get ignored sometimes, not always. But there's a lot to it. And
but I'll tell you, thank God that we're friends because, one, you've let me ask a lot of questions, right?
Sure.
But the truth is, I'm very ignorant to your world, to your life, to your experience. And sometimes I think if we weren't friends, I wouldn't be asking those questions because I don't know. Sometimes I don't know how to ask. You know, I don't know how delicate some stuff is. Like, what words are we supposed to use? So obviously,
and I feel like that's kind of what it is. You know, especially right now. You know, if we do want to call it Autism Awareness Month, if that's kind of what it is, you know, then let's make it that. Meaning that
totally,
you know,
totally.
meaning in a way that yes, you know, what's the right way to approach, if there's even a right way, because not necessarily, you know, every kid is different, every adult is different, every little baby is different, you know, as it is, and especially when they have this type of diagnosis with this, which is autism, which is a spectrum. But you know, we have to create that
that space that we can ask and have
because
in the beginning,
ask the questions.
Because in the beginning, I would say autism, right, and then you would always say on the spectrum of autism. What's the difference between just saying autistic and saying on the spectrum of autism?
I never wanted to call Michael autistic because that just labels him something as is. He's in the same batch of everybody else.
What's that batch? Again, ignorant interviewer, what is that batch?
Okay, so autism to me is a diagnosis of characteristics. The more characteristics you have and the more intense those characteristics, the higher on the spectrum. Meaning there could be kids wearing helmets because they bang their head. The stemming, Michael stems, and people that have seen videos. But there's different types of stemming. There's flapping. Michael does a very unique hand stem. There's rocking. There's vocal stemming. There's a lot of grabbing and touching.
You know, it can be spinning. It can be
stemming is something they do to soothe themselves, their pain or what they're going through, right?
Soothe the senses that they're dealing with. They take light different.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chula.
Well, it's just like a sensory regulation. You know,
got it.
It helps them regulate certain. I mean, again, we speak for what we think and we kind of know because it's kind of hard. I mean, in our case, you know, there's a lot of kids who are completely verbal and they're sometimes able to explain what they're going through. Michael's not there yet. He's limited verbally, but yeah, it's kind of like what they use to regulate whatever it is that they're going through, sensory or just within their head or pain or overwhelmed or whatever it is, you know. So
before we continue, something that I put on the stream, I was telling you, if you know somebody that's on the spectrum of autism, right? Put their name and put their age, because at the end of the program we're going to be praying not just for that child, we're going to be praying for the parents because the parents do through a lot of things. So if you know somebody that's on the spectrum of autism, because somebody put Elena, she's 6 years old. Sealy, Texas, Melinda. Melissa, is her birthday today and she's watching. Linda, thank you for logging on the journey with my son Cody, who's 23 years old.
Wow.
I know horrible username, but it makes me happy. Okay, chewing on crayons. Somebody's username. Tony Corona, hello. Who else? Melissa. Thank you for logging on. And we're going to be praying for some. Okay, we got Joe, who's their son, 19 years old. Albert has Nasiya, who's 3 years old.
Wow.
Okay, so Dom, can you put this picture? Number 2, Dom. Tell me about this little guy. Born what day?
So that's Michael. He was born September 1st of 2010.
September 1st, 2010. So he's old right now? Because I'm not good in algebra.
13.
13 years old.
He's a teenager. There's puberty going around.
He had pimples. I saw a video. He got pimples. He's getting pimples now.
The teacher sent me a text today, and she was like, Davida, he's really messing with that pimple. He doesn't really, you know, he keeps touching it.
He's scratching?
He's like, you know, kind of, I mean, I'm sure it hurts because it wasn't a pimple. It's a little volcano he has going on in his forehead today. But she said that it was just interesting the way he was noticing it and touching it and kind of trying to, you know, make them acknowledge that he had something.
Gotcha.
You know, so... Yeah, we're kind of going through that right now. You know, it's been an awesome.
Is he reacting differently because it's something new? Is he reacting to the pimple differently?
Yes. Like he doesn't. He's maybe had a couple of like little bites or pimples.
I mean, he wakes up with a morning erection. He doesn't know what to do with it. He's like this, and he doesn't know when he can't pull his pants down. And I mean, we're dealing with a lot of stuff that maybe that normal teenagers feel, but they don't act on it because they have parameters and they understand what's acceptable or not and what's appropriate behavior. And so it's a new season. So the earlier season was one way, emotion outbursts, but they look differently. Now he's stronger and he'll kick. Now, thank God it's not every day.
Yeah.
I mean, but we all have our bite marks. We have our battle scars, and he's stronger. I mean, he's a lot stronger.
Talking about seasons. Okay, so he was born what day?
September 1st.
September 1st. How many years into it did you start saying, or how was that moment? You're like, okay, he's different. That because I'm sorry for using this word again. Thank you for that. Because it's hard, Nico. Thank you.
You're not offending me.
The word normal. It's hard. But
that's
man, I have a hard that weird. But when did you start noticing that there was something different?
That's fine.
Well, I've been around babies my whole life. You know, I'm Mexican. We have a big family. I love babies, and just having Maya already, she was closer to being like a year and a half. You know, well, 2 years. She was 2 already, and then. Yeah. You know, when we started seeing some of his signs was maybe like around a year and a half.
16 months.
Like 16 months.
What did you notice?
He was stemming, which I didn't know. I could think,
what was the first stemmings that you saw?
He would do this little action, like just kind of close his eyes and turn to the side a little bit, and it was when I would turn on the water. If I was brushing my teeth and I had him with me, or if I was trying to watch his face, every time the water ran, the sound of the water and just the visual of the water, he was just kind of, which we call it ansias, you know, kind of like when they're little, like, ah, it's ansioso, or how cute, you know, you would kind of like see like, oh, watch what he does, you know, you would turn on the water and he would just go like this. And then I was like, okay, well, that's kind of cute. But then I started putting it on my lap and I would type and just, you know, this sound, then he would just start flapping his hands really loud and blinking his eyes. And then I was like, And then I would stop and he would stop. And then I would go and type again. And then that sound will trigger those behaviors.
Or you were thinking, oh man, this is a cute reaction.
At first we did.
Yes, at first we did. You know, then it was and I will ask the questions also. I mean, Maya was very advanced developmentally just from an early age, just from walking to trying to talk and all that stuff. Michael wasn't really meeting, you know, the milestones a normal, you know, child you would expect. But then when I would ask the questions to the doctor, I'd be like, well, boys take a little more. Boys are a little harder to start doing the things. Yes, they delay certain behaviors, you know. So it wasn't a lot of like reassurance to where, you know, our heart was kind of going. But we were just...
You started noticing that.
But then he's quit responding to his name.
Okay.
Right.
And so then they thought...
How long into seeing these moments of stemming did he start responding?
He stemmed before. He was doing these little stemming ansia moments that we called them at the time before he quit responding. He quit responding to his name at the 16 to 18 month period.
Okay.
Around that time, maybe closer to 2. Somewhere, I mean, you're not walking around with a calendar thinking.
Right.
So you're having to go back and revisit. I mean, I deal with eyewitness testimony all the time for what I do for a profession, and you know, one's with a calendar or you're jotting things down in a journal. So we're just living life. So we had to go back and look at video and look at pictures and see, okay, here he is pretending to read. Here he is looking and smiling. Here he is looking to
like engaging
Michael,
with you.
Engaging.
You know, I mean, he's a baby, so he's not truly having a conversation, but he was babbling a lot and focusing on you and keeping your eyes on you, and that kind of just switched, and he was like gone, you know, like there was no eye contact. We thought he couldn't hear. For many, I mean, it was months that we did a lot of hearing tests, and then we did a lot of.
So you went through a whole process, not calling it autistic.
No, autism. We didn't know.
How long was that process?
I hadn't even heard of autism. I mean, I heard of an autistic savant, and that was Rain Man.
Gotcha.
Right. That's what I meant, but I didn't know what that was. Is a smart dude that's kind of a little different, quirky. Yeah, so we didn't know. So we just thought something was different because he was this way and now he's this way. What happened? And then so we went through a series of tests.
How long was that series of tests before you get to the diagnosis?
Well, he wasn't diagnosed until he was 3 years old, but we knew before that.
Well, we knew. I mean, even before the age of 2, we started. Yeah. Again, I mean, this is a kid. You see other kids. You know, this kid's trying to walk, and then he would like literally fall. Like he would not put his hands down. He would not like. He would like go do. You know, so it was. She just had no control of his, you know, senses or body or just motor skills were completely off. So it was just different. I kept asking questions.
You mentioned in the documentary, because somebody mentioned that they saw your story on the documentary on Vax, right?
Correct.
On the first one.
Well, we were affiliated with the first one, but we were actually in the second one, Vax 2.
And you in the report you said that there was a moment that you saw that he was not, that he could look at you, but you sense he was not looking at you. Do you remember that moment?
Well, that was like right when everything changed. We would just call his name, and then you would think he was engaging with you, but there was no response. It was just kind of like a glare. And those happen still. Those are there a lot more now. But like Nico says, you don't keep track of every second of what it is. But now that we think about it, you start like that's what it. Yeah, that's what was. But then again, luckily, there's always like we could have, we should have, and that's kind of hard. But we did start, with occupational therapy right away and speech therapy right away, just because he was not, catching up to his peers, catching up to Maya, like engaging with Maya at one point, and then regardless of what it was or it wasn't, we didn't know he didn't. We just wanted to be proactive and start.
But you said that you knew before. But he was diagnosed later. When and how did the diagnosis?
We went to a doctor. What was her name? Dr. Wong.
Dr. Tran in Austin.
Chang, sorry. I went to Dr. Tran in Austin, and she used to be here. Then she moved, and it was it's a diagnosis of observations, Daddy. There's not a blood test. There's not a this. There's some people that can do brain scans or some type of MRIs, but there's not really you don't look for a tumor like you do with another type of illness. And not that this is an illness, this is a condition. They're just observing you, and they're seeing his behavior. And that's why it's a spectrum, because is he higher functioning, middle of the road? A big milestone for a child on the spectrum is saying any words, number one, communicating, whether it's through sign language, mas, or through pointing, or through looking at a chart, and then potty training. And so those are two different milestones for us. But we noticed way before. The 3-year-old, we knew, and I had already been researching the autism spectrum disorder. I'd been looking at that. I refused. I remember the first time. I'll tell you this. I refused calling him autistic. The first time I called him autistic, we were in Disneyland, and so Michael is speaking out loud, and if you don't know what you're looking for, because he was younger back then, you think he's a spoiled brat. I get it, but. And so this guy was sitting with another dude.
He's very loud and screams when he's really excited. Also, so he's just loud.
But younger, it looks like a berinche, And so it was with his mom, an older lady, and then 2 men, or something. And he's looking at them like making gestures, like look at this spoiled little brat. And I'm just gonna say what I said, and then I grabbed Michael. It was an impulse. I was already toiling with a lot of guilt and stuff like that we can talk about later. And I turned around and I said, he's fucking autistic, asshole.
You told the guy.
Just like that in front of his mom. And then he goes, I go, where you going? And then I started following him. We're in Disneyland. She goes, please don't get arrested in Disneyland. You're not a lawyer here. I'm not licensed over there. And I just followed him. And I was so mad at myself that I called him autistic. Because then to me, that would relegate him to this world of autism instead. And when you think about the spectrum, then you can work on those characteristics and work up or down the spectrum. And look, theoretically, and there's cases that if you work on those characteristics and you find out the root cause of them and eliminate them, there are children that are no longer, if you catch it early enough, diagnose it early enough, that are not on the spectrum anymore. And then they've chelation. There's a lot of things we can talk about.
And then again, there might be just one characteristics, which one of the big ones is just the social interaction. Yeah. That's one of the main ones that you should see people, little kids or, teenagers just retract to their own and be on their own, be quiet, be on their own, they call them their own little worlds or whatever it is. And that's one of the main signs that you see, But if they're able to communicate and they're able to read and they're able to express themselves and writing another way, once that social interaction kind of starts working, then they're a spectrum.
And the reason I'm asking questions on the timelines and those details, because to certain people, this is new or they don't know. There's a lot of information and a lack of information, right? There's probably some parents out there, some male, that like something that you've talked about, that you're having a hard time about forgiving yourself, whatever. We'll talk about that. But sometimes we don't know how to react, or we also lose control of our emotions. So there's a man out there, because I can only imagine today, I was thinking about it, you honoring your wife and the way she's, being an amazing hero to Michael, taking care of him. And there's a moment where you feel as a man, I should do more or whatever. Right. How did you deal with that moment that you got pissed? How did you deal with yourself? What did you have to tell yourself?
I was more mad at the fact that I called my son autistic. And that I lost control of that situation because it had been building up inside me. I was dealing with a lot of guilt. Again, I want to honor Davi. She doesn't want to talk too much today about vaccines. I'm very passionate about that,
Yeah.
and so, but I'm going to defer to my wife and honor her. We'll talk a little bit about it, she says, and so I'm going to honor that. No, I do.
No, I mean,
so-
I don't mind.
So this is
you know,
about
I
the
don't mind. I
family,
just-
but she wants to
I just
encourage
want-
families
Yes.
because there's so much to the world of autism. There's so much to the
And then just
relationship.
kind of what you're talking about too, you know, it says like we go through, there's a season for everything, and just one that comes into your hands and you don't know what to do, and then parents are kind of like lost and what now, you know. But I will encourage you to do, if you see any type of signs or you kind of questioning or maybe having that doubt, just go for it, because you want to start any type of, just go for it, like, you know, like trying to find the answers or trying to find therapy or
And
trying
support.
to find the help, trying to find the help, instead of like sometimes we deny, you know, we're like in that denial period when we're like, okay, hold on, no, maybe maybe one more year, maybe another year, we'll wait a little bit and he'll talk a little more, he'll incorporate into
There's a lot
his,
of denial.
you know, his peers. So yeah, and that denial can
We've seen a lot of
delay,
us too.
you know, can delay a lot of the progress that the baby can do from early age. And another really quick thing, I mean, what made us more than anything, and this is for a lot of other families that are going through as well, get that diagnosis, because we knew. I mean, we knew that, you know, even though once you get out of there and they give you the diagnosis, your heart is just kind of completely drops. But I mean, we knew that there was something, you know, already there.
Yeah.
But the reason is, I mean, mainly is because, and this is sad, Nico was in private practice, so we were able to pay for everything out of pocket, which is really expensive. Therapists are really expensive. The therapists are there, the centers are there to get that correlation about, you know, getting together. It's just really, it's a very high, like costly, you know, thing. So he was about to go into public service. So, you know, then what are we going to do? How are we going to pay for all this, you know? So insurance, we were able to pay because we were on our own and that type of thing, but then insurance wasn't going to help us at all unless we had
They only cover certain stuff: ABA therapy, speech therapy, occupation.
Very limited.
There's the trinity of
amount.
therapies that
What type of therapies for those that don't know?
ABA and speech therapy to try to help you.
Occupational therapy, there's sensory therapy, there's food therapy.
And look, I'm not saying they don't work, but when you're talking about trying to move the needle, I mean, really move the needle. From our studies, and look, and there's a lot to this too, because when I spoke out on our opinions, our opinions, I voiced them. We got messages from around the world. Have you done this? Have you done this? Chelation and this. And then I'm in the middle of, I'm in office at this time, so I'm kind of jumping ahead, Saulo, so bring us back if you need to. But then we're in office this time, and we're getting all these wonderful, gracious, encouraging messages, but I'm still running the DA's office in a city this big, and Davi's home holding the fort down, not complaining one bit, because she knew what I was doing and what it took and what I was dealing with. And you can't do everything. And then you try something for 2 or 3 months and you don't get the results you want, then you shift.
At the speed you want.
Yes, and then you shift, and it really took, it needed a year commitment. And you're like, I don't have a year. If you don't get your son or your daughter or your child better or off the spectrum by this age, then they're done. And you're dealing with all this, everything's pulling at you. And then I was in public service, and then she was just holding the fort down.
Nico, let me ask you a question, because I'm curious if somebody out there is watching. You know that moment of acceptance of a situation in your life, or the moment you accepted that he was on the spectrum, did it bring you like pain, and did it also bring you like, okay, I can start addressing it? You know, because sometimes when you address some things, like, yeah, I gotta accept it, and it brings you this peace of saying, okay, this is the route I need to take.
You asked me that question. I didn't know you were gonna ask me that. Anger and disappointment in myself, and angry at the society and different parts of society that pushed the reason why I believe he's on.
One of the things I mentioned in my promo, that because there is this
not anger at Michael, not angry at God, not angry at Davi, obviously, anger at myself and angry at a certain sector.
Because you're my friend and we always talk about it.
Sure.
No percentage mad at God? No, at all?
No.
Really?
Nope. No.
Oh, wow,
Not at that stage of my walk. Now, but let me tell you how the devil works. So we named Michael after my brother who was murdered. And so, so here's Mike, who was taken from us. We're blessed. We didn't check, after Maya, we didn't check boys or girls. And so we get Michael. We name him Michael Anthony. And Michael after my brother, Michael Thomas. Anthony's my middle name. And so Michael Anthony. And then at some point, this realization kicks in where the devil whispers in your ear. And he says, you stupid son of a bitch. Yeah. You turn your life around from selling drugs. You serve this community. You do ministry. You've been involved in prison ministry. You do all these things, and this is how God pays you back. This is how he pays you back. And you want to talk about Paul teaching in 2 Corinthians to take your thoughts captive. I mean, but it was something that I toiled with, and it wasn't that. But it wasn't an anger at God. It was an anger at myself. But it's also not listening to the whispers of society, or to me, the enemy, who's very real. Just saying, you can't speak to both of the Michaels in your life. Your brother Mike's gone, and now I can talk to Michael, but you don't get to hear back from him.
Right.
And so and that's something.
Help me understand.
I'm not. If I told you that I'm not still toiling with it, I'd be lying to you.
That's why
I trust the Lord.
Yeah.
I trust the Lord. So Romans 8:28 says that God works all things out for the good of those who love Him and are called by His purpose. You've heard me say, because you've heard me talk many times, I would not change August 15th, 1996. That's the day that Mike was murdered in my parents' driveway, 214. I would not change that. Yeah. And people freak out and say, what do you mean you wouldn't change your brother's murder? Because of how God has used it now. Now, have I seen how the Lord has used Michael's challenge and how it's affected and matured us and teach in a huge way? Right. Absolutely. But am I there yet to say, I wouldn't change it? I'm not there yet. Yeah. But I didn't get there right away with Mike's passing either. So that's where you trust the Lord. That's where you lean into the Lord and
Help
you trust
me understand, you because I've heard you say it several times, not just here, that you were mad at yourself. Mad at what?
I'll answer it briefly. I question experts for a living. That's what I do. I mean, whether I'm prosecuting or defending, if someone says, my expert says this, well, essentially, your expert sucks. And my expert says this. Well, my 2 experts say this. Well, your 2 experts suck. And my 3 experts say this. That's what I do. And I was mad at myself because I didn't use the profession that I believe the Lord has gifted me in to defend my son and to ask the right questions. Or protect him. And as a type A, I would die for my children, for my wife in a second. I wouldn't even hesitate to die for my children or my wife. And I didn't, in my mind, I had to battle with the fact that I didn't protect my. Now, it was done out of ignorance. Ignorance just meaning not knowing. But I didn't ask the right questions. I did not I tell everyone, I teach critically think, spar with ideas in your mind. I don't care who the authority is. Ask questions. Ask them appropriately, but ask questions. Make sure you understand. Informed consent, all this other stuff. And I didn't do it. I just followed like sheep. Yeah. And so that's something that I toiled with for years.
And we're talking about the vaccine schedule.
Yeah.
Because, and that's, and not to say, like he says, it's a topic that we can talk about it, and we can do that another time. But the only thing, just like he says, we as moms as well, we should ask questions. We are conditioned to be in fear and to really just follow whatever the schedule is and follow what the experts or doctors are telling us. But
and trust that
but then also when is that gut feeling in that mom sense that you want to be at peace with whatever's going into your child.
Yeah, whatever you decide.
And then you have to be able to at least ask the questions. But they're not even letting you ask any questions. Yeah. If now they're like, okay, we can't see you, goodbye. But, there should be a little bit of answer. They should be able to give you some comfort and be like, hey, this is the way it is, and this is what we got, whatever, But if that's not there, then I'm like, just do what your heart tells you, but make sure you're at peace with that decision. That is your decision for your own children,
So I'm sorry, Chula. I'm sorry. I was just thinking what Saula asked me, because I want to answer. I can't tell you when. But I've prayed, I've toiled, I've advocated, I've gotten in societal fights over issues, and we really focus on all of our children. We don't just let. Autism is not our identity. Christ is our identity.
Of course.
It's not our family. It's a big part of our family, and it's taught us so much. I remember at one point, and it's got to be 2 or 3 years ago now, where I felt a discerning, spirit, the Holy Spirit telling me that, can you imagine the 30-year-old Maya, the 30-year-old Leah, and the 30-year-old Zaiter, because they helped raise their special needs brother? And I remember thinking, and I'm serious, I remember thinking, shit. I said, I will now, Lord. I'll start thinking about that. Yeah. And that's when I submitted. And that's when I quit trying to deny, because there was a denial, even till the end, even though God's using it, of course. I mean, I just have this.
You're trying to convince that it was a blessing, not really feeling it was a blessing.
Yeah, and so I just submitted to it. Yeah. Because here's, we don't get to change, everyone sees a result, but they don't want the equation, right? The equation is the equation. Yeah. My brother's murder is part of the equation. Yeah. And Michael's challenge is part of the equation. Yeah. And our decisions, good and bad, are part of the equation. And God works it all out. Right?
And how do you get to the point? How do you take your heart to the point and say, I need to share my journey with Michael? Because I've noticed that you're sharing it on social media and stuff like that. How do you get your heart and your mind to say, you know what, this is private, this is special, this is delicate. I'm going to start sharing it.
Well, I mean, it just kind of happened organically. You know, I wasn't distinguishing, you know, any of my kids like this is the one that is very special, and this is the one that's not as special. And it just kind of became that it happened to be that Michael was autistic, you know, and then they were able to see that through social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it was, and just the response and the support that I was getting from other moms and other parents, it was pretty encouraging, and it was pretty amazing, or it was pretty like, I've been there, I've done that, I'm going through it, I'm going, you know, we're with you, thank you for sharing. I was like, thank you. I mean, and this is just what we go through. This is our life. I'm not doing it out of like, look at what we got going on. This is what we live. You know, it was just an open. It was just like kind of like a little open outlet. You know, like a little open ventanita to our, a little window to our daily life. But and I just wanted it to be truthful. You know. I show the good, I show the bad, I show the really good, I show the really bad, and like I said, with everybody, not just with Michael, but it's been, it has been a blessing for me, just being able to.
How so? What have you learned from God through this?
Yeah, just being able to let go, and just God telling me you're not alone, because there's this whole, I mean, even right now, and I get emotional, this whole army of other women going through it, and that they've gone through it, and their kids are like 20-something. And, you know, they might not be where they want them to be, but they're okay. You know, or other moms that I'm able to help because they're barely getting that first diagnosis and they're completely lost. And I know where your heart is at. And not to say that I was ever like, why us? No, I mean, thankfully, I was exposed to special needs kids at a very young age. Through family, and also I work with special needs kids. I never thought I would have one, you know, and that would be my situation. But I mean, and when I said I'm grateful for it, I am. I'm truly are, because I wouldn't have discovered who I am now if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, although, you know, so my aunt, my mom's sister, is special needs. She's MR. That's a technical term, mental retardation. She doesn't have Down syndrome, but she's MR. And Missy, call her Missy. And so she always, you know, I mean, I grew up around her. You know, Missy, just, you know. Yeah. And so I've always, even when I was in my craziest times in my life, after Mike was murdered, during me selling drugs when I was young and stupid, and I was more violent and explosive. I remember I was working out at this one gym up 281, and I can see his face. There was this old gentleman that would work out there with his son, and his son must have been anywhere between 18 and 23, you know, but he had a mustache. You could tell, younger looking face, not Down syndrome. I didn't know at the time, but clearly was on the spectrum. And it could have been dual, and there's dual diagnoses, by the way. You know, Michael just has one diagnosis, but there's dual diagnoses. And he used to wear his pants up and his socks up. The typical way that people make fun of other kids that are special needs. Which I'll tell you why I hate the word retard. I hate it. When I mean hate, I use that word very deliberately. I hate that word. And so I remember seeing them, and even then, even when I was stuck in the world, even when I was just explosive and angry, and you know, I remember thinking to myself, how can that older gentleman pass away in peace? I don't understand. Yeah. Who's going to take care of his son? Right. I mean, and he would go to the machines, and then and it was the cutest thing, and now I see it. And then he'd go follow his pop, and then he'd fall. And I used to adjust my workout, and use the dumbbell racks in this one or whatever, because I wanted to stay next to him. And I remember thinking, in my jacked up ways, I said, let's one of these sons of bitches try to hurt them in here. I mean, I'll crush them. I mean, I was just so defensive for the special needs community in general, because I hate bullying, and I've always been a defender of people. It just, even when I was young, even when I'm my craziest times. And I remember thinking that, and here we are, you know, any parent out there and family that have a special needs child, and our friend, I'm thinking of Derek and Magali, you know, our friends. They have Mia, who's precious, and you know you're not going to have your golden years, and that's okay. Because that's what God said. Totally. God for us, God allowed this. God is using this, and that's how much we trust Him. We trust the Lord that He knows what's best for us, and we pray this nightly, and we want what He wants. Now I'm not. It took a while from our faith to get there. I mean, it's not like we just woke up one day like, yeah, whatever God wants. No, I mean, you're talking about when Scripture says you work out your salvation with fear and trembling, and you toil, and you fight, and you argue, and you wrestle with God, like Jacob. I mean, we've done all that, you know, and we're still learning.
Yeah.
And it's an everyday thing, you know, it's an everyday thing, and that's what.
We have not arrived.
I know, and I mean, and that's where the encouragement comes, you know, because I do get ask a lot, like, Davida, how do you know, we wouldn't even know, you know, we see you shaking it and doing the things, and it's like, we couldn't even think about you going through certain, but I mean, everybody has their own, like, battles that they're fighting, you know, and they're all different. I mean, this happens to be ours, and if sharing it in a way, it's encouraging somebody else, I love that.
You said in one of your videos, we want to share what we do and what we don't do. What are those things that you don't do?
Well, I mean, some of the things that we
don't medicate them.
we don't medicate them
At all.
At all.
No pastilla, no
nothing.
No.
We do all natural. You know, a lot of the just supplements, natural supplements. We have done certain protocols, but everything has been natural.
Yeah.
I've been suggested to medicate, and not to say. I mean, again, this is where
That's a whole-
the
That-
choice.
this is ours.
This is where the choice
Yeah.
comes. We're not against, you know, whoever's doing it. That's the way, and you have to do what works for your family. You know, for us, this is a journey that we
And
decided.
let me say this, and I think it's very delicate, and I can feel your reluctance in saying some things, because this is the truth in our lives and in this area, that I should have, would have. That is so heavy. Thinking, no hubiera, I should have done this, or I shouldn't have done this. Like you, I think you have tortured yourself, and I should have done this, and it's hard. So that's why it's hard to
I mean,
say.
just like Nico says, you know, there's so much that comes at you at once that you're trying to do everything. And then, you know, you see little results and you get super excited, and then you're like, okay, then that's gone. You know, and then even now, the season that we're going through now, which today when I was driving, you know, I was thinking about it. One of our friends, you know, told us, her son is like a couple years older than ours, but I remember when he was 13, the calls that I would get from her and the calls that he got from him, you know, how violent he was getting. He ended up actually hurting his mom. You know, this was completely...
He was higher functioning than Michael, which
he's
made it more...
completely verbal.
Yeah.
But he ended up, you know, trying to hurt the mom, trying to hurt, like, the dad. Like, it was just a violent act. And then today it came to me when I was driving, and I was like, oh my goodness, she told me about this, and we're in it now. I mean, not that Mike was trying to hurt me at all, but it's just his reaction is a lot more physical, you know, and he is so strong. But then again, this is what we need to be able to expose this type of behaviors, and also help with the training and how to react, because if you don't know, you know, that he's going through a sensory overload, if he's going through a, you know, like a meltdown, you can take it as, oh, this kid just wants to, you know, like hurt me and stuff like that.
Oh,
and I want
Because
to...
you've said he's bitten you, right?
Oh, he's like tore up her, you know, her skin. He's tore up her hair. He's like scratched me.
In moments, you know, in these fits. Davi posted something, and I was so touched by it that I reposted it on my Instagram, and I guess I'll post it tomorrow, or she'll post it for me tomorrow on Facebook. But she was driving him to his pediatric neurologist appointment, because we ended up doing an MRI, and you have to sedate a kid on the spectrum. You can't, they're not going to sit in a tube.
No, yeah.
And so you have to sedate them, and with sedating, there's always other issues with that. It's just this constant, you know, domino effect of decisions you have to make. And so we did that. We thought there could have been an issue with a brainstem issue. It wasn't. The doctor said he wasn't. We really like this guy. He's a nice man, and he's very knowledgeable. And so, you know, and so it wasn't. So Davi was taking him. He had a scheduled appointment 2 days ago, right? Mm-hmm. And Michael had just had a rough morning. I mean, he just had a rough morning. I mean, it was a struggle holding, because then he'll hit himself. Forget about hitting us. Then it's because he's feeling pain. I know he's feeling, so he hits himself, and then we can't let him hit himself.
Well,
So we become the helmet. And so then he'll turn it to you and pull you to get you off, or he doesn't know, he's just lashing out. And so you're fighting a bunch of fronts. But you're not striking back, because he's not trying to fight you. I'm not trying to hurt him. So you just have to, it's just.
But what I'm saying, you know, depending on the scenario, who's with him, like, we're very careful who stays with him, who doesn't, because a lot of times as humans, we don't have that control to a reaction. If somebody's going at you, they can easily hurt him, you know, or he can easily hurt him. So, I mean, again, it's just, but then just that to say as well, when I'm talking about caregiver, I want to give a big shout out to all of Michael's teachers and just caregivers at the school, because they've been so great and so awesome.
I can imagine their hearts.
So, oh my gosh. So from kindergarten to elementary school,
we've been blessed.
Just having that peace as a mom,
that
they're in a safe place, and they're in a place where he's taking care of it. I'm able to communicate with them daily through text, and they'll let me know, like, okay, Ms. Lahood, he's having a really bad day. He started kicking, he started biting. I'm like, do you want me to go get him? Like, no, he's fine. We just want to we need to let you know, but we got him. And you're like, okay, you know, so, that's a big deal. Because
llegar a esa confianza, you get to that point that you're like, you're struggling.
It takes a special person. Sally.
Totally.
A very special person. There's something very special about someone that commits their life to special needs children and not having a special needs child.
Yeah.
That's a different element to it. I mean, we're seeing more cases, and we represent people that are teachers that get in these situations and have to protect other students, and there's restraining techniques, and all these bullshit school districts don't know what the hell they're doing. And then they get arrested. And then we're defending teachers and defending family members. And
really?
Oh,
yes.
yes. I mean, the case, even when I was DA, I mean, within 1 month, I get a phone call from Pamela Allen. She's a friend of ours, and she's a big advocate there for the special needs community. And she goes, Nico, a 12-year-old, I think she was, a little girl was arrested. I go, on the spectrum. I go, for what? So she's in music class. And you're in music class, and there's a sensory.
Of course.
So she had to get out. She was having a sensory overload. Well, they tried to de-escalate her. So in that process, she pulled the teacher's hair, and some dumbass arrested her. And I called Rosabelle. She's a judge now in the juvenile court. She's an excellent judge, and she's a wonderful prosecutor and just a phenomenal lawyer and great person. So I said, Rose, she was our chief of juvenile. I go, will you look into this case? Make sure that we're not just doing this. I'm not making an emotional decision.
Of course.
Because it's a fellow kid on the spectrum.
Yeah.
They don't get a pass.
Yeah.
They just need consideration. There's a difference.
Yeah.
And she looked it up. She goes, Nico, it's exactly what your friend said. And I go, get her out. Because she was verbal. She wanted to go to her daddy. They separated. There's no proper training for this.
Yeah.
And then so we ended up dismissing the case. It was ridiculous. They shouldn't have ever been arrested. But everybody's scared. And everybody wants to overreact. It's just the system.
Lack of training, lack of
awareness. Lack of courage, lack of intelligence, lack of being aware, lack of everything.
And communication in general, I feel, this kids, I mean, even adults, little kids, their behaviors are triggered by a lot of different things. A simple touch can completely, skyrocket them. A simple look in a different way. A sound that you might make, a word that you might say. So all those triggers that we don't know, and it might happen in the middle of nowhere.
Do you find new triggers in Michael?
Yes.
Or do you, to the point you already know all of them?
No. I can't say I know all of them. No, but there's a lot of them that yes, I do. I mean,
she can tell when they're coming. She can tell. Like,
most of them, and then.
And she knows. I'm sorry, but I want to give her credit. She knows when he's just being a difficult 13-year-old, and it's behavioral.
That's so awesome.
And it's behavioral versus sensory. I mean, she there's something he likes. Do you want me to take away? He'll be going. Just last night, we were holding him down. Like he was just happy, and then we both convene in his room because we have a camera on him.
Yeah.
And we're up there, and then I'm holding him. She's holding him. Then he pushes on her, and then tries to kick on me. So I'm doing this. I mean, so that's why we work out for our kids.
Yeah.
I mean, so then I'm holding him. And then I goes, Michael, behave yourself. You want me to take the star away? There's a star that he's fixated on outside. I'm talking on the drop of a dime. No.
I mean, he went.
13-year-old.
And then
I mean,
I was
like that.
And I said, Michael, stop being so dramatic, please. Yeah. I was like, I want you to use your words, and he listened. So
listened,
and again, those are the moments that we're also so grateful for. Even though we get him in a little sparks here and there, when he's completely engaged and he's present, which we had that a couple, and we go through that. He gives us a really good night, and then it's like.
But because it's beautiful that you share those moments, and then like the next two stories, like, okay, we're good. I'm like watching the first one, and I'll tell you honestly, again, the ignorant interviewer. I watch those moments, Davi, and because I have my 4-year-old son, and my mind goes into so many places, and I was nervous in talking about this, but because your mind goes in, I don't know, I was having a difficult trying to understand and put myself in your shoes, and I'm watching your video, and I'm over here crying, and I'm like, my goodness, that's like, what you're going through. And then the next one, you're like, oh, we're good. Michael, tell me about your pimple. And I'm like, we're good. Like,
but and that's what it is. I mean, emotionally, it's such a roller coaster.
That was years of training for her.
Of course.
That was years of crying silently. I would come home.
They still do it.
Well, she does. Yeah, I know, but you're battle tested. I mean, yes, there's still, but I'd come home and I would just see her just by herself, not one of the other kids to see her, and crying. And then I'd try to consult. I have to. She's my wife, and I want to try to be there for her the best I can. And I might have missed it. And when I was in office, I missed a lot of it.
Yeah.
And and that's why I'm grateful the Lord pulled me out of it. I mean, I was just engulfed, doing fighting for the community, and then I'm got so much at home too.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is I'm not saying that she can deal with anything. She does. She can deal with anything with Christ, but. What I'm just saying is she knows how to adjust and adapt to those emotional swings.
We're at your house, and Michael is stemming, or I don't know how to explain it, right?
That's fine.
And then you're just like, oh, he's just this. Like there's moments you're like, oh, he's just this.
I'm
oh,
like, what
this
was
is
that
this.
sound?
Yeah.
I know his little.
You know all the nuances of his
But then
sounds.
talking about my house, also, I'm also gonna, call you out and thank you for that because what you did, you went and joined Michael, and you tried to mimic it and communicate with him in a way that's what I want people to do. Not necessarily, not anybody can do it because sometimes you don't feel that trust or that, just freedom to do a closeness to him. But it's important for us, we spend so much time trying to join their world and understand them and for them to understand us, for them to like train to be able to communicate, for them to be able to function in our world, for them to be able to function, just in this society. But then when it comes for us time to join them and like try to figure out what they're going through, what they're living, what they're doing, what they're thinking, that's not what's happening. So you joining him in the floor and then mimicking him, that's a way of communicating, even if it's not verbal, that's a way of like letting him know.
You got this calmness.
Yes, that's a way to let him know, hey, I'm here with you and I'm just gonna respect your space, but I'm gonna just do what you're doing. So I appreciate that. I have a couple other friends that done that as well, where they, physically go look for him and try to engage with him. And a lot of times they're a little hesitant to touch him because they don't know how he's gonna react. So, and it's just exposing them and being able to also teach them and train them and just for them to feel it's okay. Sometimes the behavior might be a little intimidating. And then even for our kids, there's been times when he was younger that I struggled out with, Maya's our oldest, and then Nico, I'm sure I'll tell a story in a second, but when we'd go places and Michael would get very anxious or just desperate because he wanted to do the jumping, he wanted to do this, and he wanted to do it his way, and he, because he couldn't communicate, he would start kicking and throwing things and like laying on the floor and just having this huge tantrum because it wasn't a meltdown, it was a tantrum. So then Maya would be like, Mommy, everybody's looking at us, please help me.
So that's
she
the
would
story.
be, so then, I was like, Mommy, please give it to him. Mommy, please give it to him. Mommy, baby. I'm like, no, I don't give it to you.
She was worried about herself more than the...
Yes, I was like, I don't give it to you. I don't give it to them. I don't give it to the rest of the kids. I'm not going to give it to Michael. I'm sorry, but, So that was one incident, But there's been other situations, and this is different than the one you're going to talk, but I was at a church, and there's a kids camp, and there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids. And then in the middle of this camp, Michael decides to have one of the biggest meltdowns where he's biting himself, he's hitting himself, he's screaming. So this is like little kids to teenagers, and they all go whoosh, At that point, even though, I would love to expose him, that wasn't the time because it was too much. For them to see him biting or hitting or trying to pull his hair, I just grab Michael on my arms and I run out that church, and then get to the car. And just all the emotions came out, which it happens a lot.
So she was alluding to a situation where, and this is how Michael's teaching the kids. We've been in a restaurant and Michael's had a meltdown, and I'll just sit on the floor with him, and people can figure it out if they didn't like it, not like it. They're gonna say something, I'm gonna say something back. It is what it is. So Maya was in the middle of being grounded. I won't tell you the details, but she was grounded for 6 months, right? And so she was learning through that process of being grounded, and she couldn't do this, she couldn't do that. So she was really spending more time with the other siblings and this, and we had different requirements of her because she was working off her punishment, her time. And then one night I put everybody else to sleep, and I was going downstairs, and she goes, Papi, can I tell you something? I said, yes, Angel, what's up? And she goes, don't get mad. And I was like, whenever a kid starts with don't get mad, oh shit. I mean, I was like, what? And I'm trying to stay calm. I was like, what is it, Angel? Papi, just don't get mad, okay? I'm not gonna get mad. I'm over like,
I'm already mad inside.
And she goes, and I know I shouldn't have. I was like, okay, it's not getting any better.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, okay. And she goes, well, because we were at the coast, and I came back a day early because I was getting ready for this big trial, but I didn't want to ruin their time, so we went in separate cars. So they stayed back. Well, there's this play thing, like the old Castle Golf and Games in Corpus area, before the bridge. And it was that situation, and so it was loud, and Michael had this, Maya's telling me, Michael had this huge meltdown, and she goes, I know I shouldn't have been, Papi, and Mommy had to hold him down and carry him out, and everybody was looking at us, and I was embarrassed. And I said, okay, baby. And I said, can you imagine how Michael feels? And she goes, what do you mean? I go, have you thought about how he's feeling and what he's thinking and how he's perceiving the situation? Well, no. So then I showed her a video. I watched a video with her that David showed me 9 years earlier. And it's about this girl, Carly. And you can go to YouTube. It's Carly. It was on 60 Minutes or 2020 or whatever it was back then. You put in Carly and Autism or whatever. Carly and Autism, Carly, I think. Well, she was a twin, severely on the spectrum at 2 years old, hitting herself, fecal smearing. I mean, no communication, nothing. I mean, they told the daddy to put her in a home. He struggled. How do you give up on your child? And I mean, I'm relating to that. So I'm watching this with Maya. It's 11 minutes long. She's bawling, in her room while we're watching this. Well, one day, Carly comes up to a keyboard. They had never worked on a keyboard, and it took a long time, but I'll save you time. Typed in HELPHURT, and then threw up. Help, hurt. And then all her therapists were freaking out. What are you talking? We've never worked with kids. We've never gotten there yet. I mean, she doesn't even look at you. She's hitting her head. I mean, she's super stemming, super verbal. So it took months. They all got together and they said, let's tie her treats and her whatever rewards to her using the keyboard. Saulo, she's completely there. She blogs now. She's completely there. And then she describes the symptoms and the characteristics of autism. She goes, you know, in her typing, I don't look at you because when I see you, I take 1,000 pictures of your face and it's overwhelming, like a picture. So I hit my legs because it feels like ants are coming up, and it like so I make noises because I'm trying to drown out all the other noises. She goes, I hit my head on the wall because the pressure is so intense and I'm trying to, you know, like when you hit a sore muscle.
What insight?
Well, brother, she's saying all these things, and then she types to her daddy, and he gets emotional, and every parent that's going through this will understand this. And she goes, thank you for never giving up on me, and I love when you read me books. And the daddy, yes, and the daddy says on the interview, he goes, we spoke in front of her for years as if.
She wasn't listening.
As if. And when Davi showed me that when Michael was 3, and I said, Angel, why do you think when Michael's stemming in the corner, I don't just say, let the kid stem by himself, we're busy. I say, Michael, I love you, buddy. I love you. We're never giving up on you. Why do you think I say that? Because I never want him to think.
Totally.
And then she just bawled. And she goes, will you sleep with me tonight? Yes, I'm all chueco. Because, I mean, you know, she has a horrible pillow. And so then I slept with her that night. But it changed. This is the maturation process for all of us. Zaiter, when he was 3, when Michael had a meltdown, a 3-year-old would pause. He just knew something intense was happening, and Zaiter learned.
Really?
But this also
stop,
does been really
right?
hard. Also, I mean, now they're a lot older. But when he was little, and then Michael would get physical with me, like literally on top of me and trying to pull my hair or screaming. I was just trying to restrain him. You know, here I am, like just breathing and calming, and I can see Zaiter sitting down in front of me, just, you know, like crying. I'm like, baby, please go upstairs, baby, please, you know, because I could see his eyes saying, like, he's hurting my mommy. And I will have to tell him, baby, he's not hurting me.
Right.
You know, I'm just trying to help him, so I can't leave him alone, but I need. So that was a really hard, you know, and it's still, I mean, to this day, and that's for other families as well, you know, there's a maturity that needs to come from these kids, you know, siblings, and I want to give it out to our kids because they've been so supportive and so good. Of course, they have their moments where they get, oh, hi, Michael, you know, like every
But
other
I got to
kid.
tell you, you think, yes, your kids, you guys, but thank God for this, because we're all products of our past. We're products of our pain, and sometimes pain makes us like mean or cold and stuff. Your kids are so sweet. All 3 of them with Michael and because I would think, because I don't know, I would think that having Michael and the stories you're telling me, I would think they'd be like traumados or asustados. But your kids are so sweet. They're like amazing.
I mean, but like I said, you know, there's been a maturity that has to be in certain areas. You know, there's certain ways that still like little kids and all that stuff. But I mean, for example, now with the girls, you know, Michael going through puberty, we went through a little period of time where you would find him everywhere with his pants down. I mean, how do you explain, you know, to the sister who's like 10 at that time and the other sister that's, you know, 14, what's happening? Because we want to protect the rest of the people that come into our home.
Totally.
You got to make sure that Michael's not here, Michael's over there, that Michael has the door closed, that we don't do this. But I mean, you know, their eyes are not ready for a lot of that yet. And even though they're not completely there, you know, even Zaiter, you know, so, and then there's times when we're all in the car as a family, and I'm putting Michael in the car, and he's completely screaming and yelling and kicking, and they all look at me like, Michael's going? I'm like, yes, Michael's going, you know, and unfortunately, sometimes we might have to come right back. Sometimes I have to stay outside. Yeah. Sometimes, you know, he'll get through and adapt. Yeah. But I have been one, and I mean, and again, that's not for everybody. There are situations when I would love to, just for everybody to put it out there, to give, you know, a lot of grace to these mamas who are going through the situations when they tell you, I can't make it, I'm running this, I'm doing that. It's truly, you know, it's a very unpredictable day.
But, David, okay, I got to say this because we get tired in so many areas. We get tired mentally, we get tired emotionally. Tell me the God factor in your life as a mom. You know what I mean? Because I tell everybody, like sometimes we think we're badasses and we're not. Like sometimes we're like, we have to wave the white flag of surrender, but it's better to wave the white flag to God instead of just surrendering.
Yes.
Like
my surrendering is to Him.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where I get my strength from. That, like I said, that supernatural strength that I feel like Michael has, that it comes into my body physically, because I mean he's a big dude now.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, not a big, but I mean he's 5'3" now. I'm 5'4", and then he is like 47 pounds already, like.
Michael's more than 47 pounds.
No, 50s. Well, he got weighed yesterday. 47. Is it 47
You think
kilos?
kilos.
He's
Kilos.
47
Kilos.
I know,
Yeah.
47
You're
pounds.
still from Mexico.
Okay, sorry. Yes, es kilos. Perdón. So, anyways, so for me to be able to, I mean, I can pick this, not all the time, but when he's going through those challenges and I can pick him up, you know, and run with him stairs all the way up into the car. Where is that from? You know, I have to pray, like ask God to help me, because I can't do it on my own. It's just for me to be able to release that as well, and not hold on to it and have that moment of peace and joy right after.
Yeah.
You know, it's not.
Let me say hi to a few people
Yes,
there.
go ahead.
Sharon, thank you. Hope this helps create more and more community. My son is 27, and there was no support groups. Man, Danny Marie, thank you for sharing your story and your journey. Thank you, Danny Marie. Frankie, China, Aliviar, Annie Espinosa, Ramos. They're tagging people so they can log on. I had to advocate for my child because doctors were not quick to assist because she did not show clear signs of autism. I still advocated. I had her in therapy, which has helped. I find it now at 6 years old, she has a diagnosis. Daniel, God bless you, man. Sheena, God bless you. Carolyn, thank you so much for sharing your story. Robert Gonzalez, Manito, those were the same struggles I had as a 22-year-old father, not knowing how I was going to pay for therapy. Man, Jeff, thank you for logging on. Frank Flores, Melissa, thank you. Albert Haynes, Albert, Romans 8:28, all things work together. Andy, that's me. My son was diagnosed at 3, and now he's living independently at 20.
Come on.
That's
Praise
awesome.
God. Good for
Yes.
you.
Wow.
Great
Oh,
for you.
because you're hitting the.
Oh, sorry.
the chain.
Can you hear me
Nico,
now?
Nico, you've said several times about Michael that I know he's in there, right? I know he's in there. And then you said that you feel bad. What would you tell the aware Michael back then?
The aware Michael, in what sense? About what?
Because you say, I know he's in there. You keep saying that when you share about Michael, yours, I know he's in there.
I think of Michael and people in his situation when I think of Carly, that
Gotcha.
video, and Michael. To me, it's like the people that are fighting and dealing with Lou Gehrig's disease, where because she says, I know I don't want to do what I'm doing, but I can't help it. I can't control this. I'm trying to. So their mind is there. Can you imagine being stuck in the prison of your body?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if your mind, now if there's a dual diagnosis, that's a different deal. But I guarantee you, a bunch of them are trapped in their mind, in their body. And I think some of his outbursts, could it be sadness? Mm-hmm. Could it be frustration?
Got it.
Could it be a combination? And I just want him to know that I whisper in his ear, I'm never giving up on you, buddy. I love you, Daddy. Never going to give up on you. Jesus loves you. I love you. Mommy loves you. We're all here for you. And that's it. And that stress, there's stress along with it, right? I'm not financial, emotional.
Yes.
Causes is a big part of this journey, is making sure that the parents are equally yoked.
Yeah.
That they're together, because there's an 85+%
I was going to ask you, 85% divorce rate
in families with a child on the spectrum.
What do you think that argument is?
Well, it's a lack of joy. Autism can steal your joy. I mean, look, we've gone seasons where there's no sleep. I'm not saying months and months, but months and months with consistent not sleeping, where it's noisy
3
and loud.
nights, 4 nights.
Yeah, and then he has
that's
meltdowns and he
normal.
needs consolement. We have to go up there. You can't just let him. And he's sitting his head, and so and we're rotating, and we're both up there sometimes, and and that can steal your joy. You're tired. You're fatigued. You lose the friendship. We've counseled other families. Then you ignore the other kids because autism gets consuming. And then what I've talked to a couple of daddies that then they look what they're missing outside the house, and then they don't want to go home, and I don't want to go home, and then it dumps on the mom. And my message is, men, stand up.
Totally.
This is your child.
Set the tone.
Just lead. I mean, if you're supposed to be the head, lead the household. Defer to your wife. Mutual submission in different scenarios and different situations, but lead.
So these people are saying that there was no support groups for kids with autism,
It wasn't.
right?
Because it was 1 in 10,000 in the 80s.
Well, much less support groups for the parents.
Right.
Would you say?
any baby
Well, there's,
can,
I mean,
right?
there's a lot more now. You know, there's a lot of groups and social media as well. You can find on Facebook as well. There's just a lot more.
I want to thank those people that, because we did the video, was promoting it, what we were going to talk about, and then I'm like, okay, autism, and I saw several support groups, and I clicked on it, and then I joined, and then they started asking me questions. Do you have a child on the spectrum, and how long? And like they started asking me, but I kind of loved it because they're protecting the conversation. They're protecting themselves and something like that.
But there's two aspects to the journey, Daddy. There's the child and their treatment. There's three aspects. There's the parents and their relationship, and then there's the other children. And all that leads to the whole family unit.
Man.
Right? So there's an umbrella, and there's three sections.
Well, and then, you know, another one
that.
big one that I just, you know, spoke to a lady that's older, that her son is also 20 something, but she's had it, you know, much harder because he's still kind of not completely able to go to the bathroom on his own, you know, and then she's saying that now it's really hard for anybody to take care of him because he does come, you know, a little aggressive at times. So she's like, Davida, I mean, he's my life, you know, she's a little older, and she's just kind of saying like, I don't have the freedom to be able to do, you know, anything right now because everything is you know, catered to him and then his timing. But then also what I was going with is we're talking just knowing that yes, there's the kids, but also the family outside of there, like their siblings or their extended family. Like in this situation, him and his brother were best friends, you know, him with special needs, and his brother got married. The wife didn't accept the brother with special needs. And then she said they grew up like best friends. You know, they were always together. He relied so much on him, and now that he's married, the wife doesn't really understand or want him around, you know, and I was like, that broke my heart because I was like,
I'll keep my
I mean,
mouth
I
shut.
see,
Please.
you know, but I mean, but not necessarily just the in-laws or what, I mean, your parents, you know, sometimes your in-laws, sometimes, you know, it's just there's a lot of denial from those sides as well when they don't want to be involved because they don't know how, so they'd rather just stay out. You know, I mean, thank God, unfortunately, that's not our situation. We're so thankful.
See, and then there's people that visit your life, and there's people that visit the child and the situation, and then there's people that live with the situation.
You got it.
There's a difference. Look, and someday, by God's grace, God willing, Maya, Zaiter, and Leah are going to leave the home. They're going to leave the home. We don't expect them to stay with us forever.
Right.
And so we have to trust the Lord and work and continue to help Michael and be there for him and help him be as independent as he can. But also for me as a daddy, as a type A personality protector, and that's why I hope, I pray I'm appropriately hard on our kids. God bless you, where they have to.
You said you're appropriately hard on your kids.
Yes.
That's inappropriate.
No, because I
Are
deal
you a
with
lawyer?
Well, because the words matter to me. Because I deal with people that are inappropriately hard on their kids, and it's called abuse. You understand my point?
Totally.
Because hard is hard, but it's either appropriate or it's inappropriate, but it's still hard. And so what I mean is, we train them to defend themselves. They have to do tough things. They have to toil. They have to strain. They have to learn to think. They have to be independent. We train up and we're nurturing a relationship with Christ. All these things, we're not there to save them out of, if they're going to fall, they're going to fall. We're just watching to make sure they don't fall too much. If they have a problem, they're going to try to deal with it if it's appropriately for them to deal with it at first, and we're watching, and then we'll jump in when we need to. We have to raise them up in Proverbs 22:6. Start a child up in the way they will go. When they get older, they will not depart from it. But because at least for me, maybe David doesn't think this way as much, but I'm thinking, I pray the Lord gives me 40 more years. But if he doesn't, they need to be ready. And whether I'm not saying they don't like it, it's all of our responsibility, because at some point, we want Michael to have 3 advocates on this earth that are capable and formidable to fight for him, to defend him, and to advocate for him if the Lord does what he does with us.
A lot of people are saying thank you for sharing your stories, and thank you very much. And thank God, because he helps us in our weaknesses. And I just encourage a lot of parents out there that you can consciously decide to bring in joy to any situation with God's help. Because sometimes, like
we can't do without the Lord.
You can't, because sometimes we get tired. And sometimes with God's help, you can consciously make a decision and say, you know what, the situation is tough, you know, but I consciously make a decision with God to say the joy of the Lord is my strength, and bring it into your family, bring it to your situation.
And then also within those things, you know, what it's taught me, and I'm sure all of us as family, all those little moments and situations and victories that we take for granted a lot of times, you know, just from the simple hello, from the simple I love you, from the simple eye contact, you know, from the simple little things, being able to eat on his own, being able to use his spoon, you know, all these little things that whenever Michael does something new, where it's like, did you see what Michael, you know, like.
Tell me one of those. Tell me one of those because sad to say as humans, we get used to.
Just a couple of days ago, I picked up the kids from school, and he's, you know, he connects with the kids, but he's never done this on his own. You know, they open the car, and Michael's always the first one in the car, and then they open the car, and then he turns around and says, "Hi, Leah." Yeah. And I was like, what? I mean, you know, I'll be like, Michael, saluda. Michael, say hi, and he'll completely respond, and he'll say hi. I said nothing. I wasn't even looking at him. They opened the door. He goes, "Hi, Leah." And I was like, you know, those little things. And I was like, "Mommy, did you see him?" Or, you know, as maybe a lot of you guys know, maybe a lot of you don't know if you don't follow me on Instagram, but Maya loves to sing and does all these crazy songs and, you know, new songs, old songs, Spanish songs. And she'll sing. And out of nowhere, Michael starts singing all those, like the whole song.
He's paying attention, man.
The whole song. And we, you know, so those little things. Or the other day, I mean, you know, I called him. We used to just go, Michael, come here, please. Michael, come. And then you're just calling him, and all of a sudden he'll be like, right here, you know, you're like, hi. But then the other night, Michael, he goes, yes? I was like, what? Right? So, I mean, all those...
I can imagine the data, because we don't know.
It's just
I can imagine all the data, because he loves bien cariñoso contigo.
See, he's
he's very romantic with
her. He really is. I mean, he just... So the fight that we posted, and you see, that's not him trying to hurt Davi.
No.
Because he adores
It's the fight with himself.
We believe, or the situation, or his emotions, or whatever his senses. But he doesn't... He's not like that with me.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to make him... Hug Papi. Give me a kiss, and he'll give me a kiss. Thank you, Papi. I go, I love you. I love you more. I go, I love you even more. And we do this back and forth.
There's a lot of echoing, but just repeating. But then also...
No, with you, I've seen him, que se te acerca,
he responds differently.
He's like, you know, bien cariñoso, y te toca los labios. Like, that's pretty awesome.
I know, it's kind of funny, because he loves to, like, smell me. And so all those things, you know, I take him and appreciate him. And then, you know, as much as sometimes it's kind of like, okay, I'm tired. I want to... I pray for it. And I want them so much that I have to be so present, and I have to be so aware of those little moments that, you know, I'm so ready for. You know, and not only me, but people around me. So for all the mamas out there, you know, that they're either going through it, you know, at an early age, or you're like further in your walk, and not in your walk, but in your journey with autism, I just don't underestimate what they can do. Yeah. You know, don't give up of any situations. Also, being involved in this community is exposes a lot to other parents that have it, you know, a lot harder than we do.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes it, you know, like Michael, thankfully, and thank God, he's able to look at us once in a while, you know, directly. He can say, I love you. If we say it first, he'll respond. He can walk on his own. He can
go to the bathroom.
He go to the bathroom.
He can't clean himself if he goes number 2.
But he was potty trained by the time he was 6, you know, which I thought it was never going to happen. But then I just kind of buckled up, and I'm like, I've done other kids. I'm like, why can't I? And those are the things that sometimes us as moms, and I'm sure as parents, we think it's going to be so hard, and we're never going to be able to do it. And he doesn't understand, and he doesn't, you know, fully like capable and stuff like that. Let's not limit what they can do, because it doesn't matter what age they're at.
But it's not just what they can do; it's what they can do to the people around them.
Right.
And to the kids. Like Zaito's his older brother, and he's taken on that older brother role. You can see him, Michael, and he'll go get his clothes. And then Michael, come here, let me get you. Michael, get in the car, Michael. So you got Michael over here, and Chaparrito, you got Zaito here.
When he tries to change him, is really cute.
And then Zaito, and then Zaito pulls his arm, and Zaito's leading him to the car. Michael, come here. I mean, it's beautiful when you sit back and you say, Lord, have your way. You know, have your way. But you need stamina. And for me, one of my go-to verses is James 1:2-4. You know, count it pure joy when you go through trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Something. And then listen, let perseverance finish its work. There's a purpose for it. So you will be mature and lack nothing. And then that maturity spreads, blesses people around you. And then there's an eternal, for me as a Christ follower, there's an eternal purpose. I mean, if I truly believe that I'm an eternal being, and if the Lord gives me 90 years, God willing, on this earth, 90 years versus eternity?
Bro, you're 3 years away.
I mean, nada. I'm 40. Nada. I mean, nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's really living for something greater than yourself.
Lauren says, can you speak more on the levels of the spectrum?
Yeah, so a high functioning person would be, if you've seen the movie Accountant, that's the last movie I think I saw. What's his name?
After E.T. Ben Affleck.
Yeah, Ben Affleck. So he's a high level accountant, and he's very high
More like
functioning.
a genius, yeah.
Yeah, genius, but kind of quirky. So he's high. He can speak. He can explain things to you. He can live on his own. He can have a job. He can do all these things. He could be on the spectrum because he has sensory issues or he has social interaction issues. But he's high. Medium. Michael's somewhere in the middle. He's speech delayed, as Davi likes to say. She's corrected me. I used to say nonverbal, but she's a speech delayed, and he can do certain things, but he could not function on his own. He can't. If you give him a task, unless it's go get your clothes, Michael, go pick that up, please, and he'll do it. But you can't give him a long task.
And just aware of his surroundings, like he has no concept of danger. Like he'll just walk down the street. He'll just, our house has to have bolt up. A lot of these kids,
lock him inside the house.
a lot of these kids, they're runaways, or they like to they're little ninjas, literally. For some reason, it's an outlet for them to
And they're attracted to
release,
water.
Attracted to water as well.
So I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I finish your question.
Okay.
And then to the severe is diapers, helmets,
Got it.
severe. I mean, stemming.
And now
constantly.
they have like numbers, there's like
really?
level 1, level 2, level 3.
Yeah, they don't use
so they
Asperger's
have-
anymore for
yeah,
some reason.
so-
Asperger's used to be a high functioning person on the spectrum. They call them Asperger's.
Asperger's was part of the autism spectrum?
Asperger's used to be on the spectrum,
Genius.
but it was a high functioning. Yes.
It's not like the people, the musically
Little quirky,
gifted. And a lot of, they all have different gifts that a lot of times it takes a while to discover. There's kids that go their whole life without having any verbal communication, and then out of the sudden they'll start painting, they'll start writing, they'll start, taking pictures, they'll start.
Look at that kid on the one that was blinded and he's on America's Talent or whatever one.
yeah.
Playing the piano.
Yeah.
He's
Question:
severe.
You said that there's numbers. If they were to give numbers to Michael, what number would he be?
I don't know what the schedule is anymore.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily sure.
Laura says this: I can certainly relate to a lot of what you're saying. We are raising 3 teenage girls on autism spectrum. It's extremely challenging, stressful, frustrating, but also, I love that, rewarding. Linda Calderon, I have to give a huge shout out to my 30-year-old daughter-in-law, Jessica, who has 5 boys with my son, and 2 of them are autistic. Jordan is 7, and Joshua is going to be 4 real soon. She homeschools them all and even incorporate Bible teaching. Man, that's
awesome.
amazing.
Yes.
Diet's a big deal, Salo.
Diet?
Diet will help a lot.
Because, we talked about it. 2 things because of the timing. But we have talked about doing more in regards to you having a moment where you bless more ladies in regards to if they have kids on the spectrum, and also having a podcast conversation about that. We talked about it. Also, we talked about in regards, because we're not going to talk about it here in regards to the vaccines, because one day I'm just going to ask you this, right?
Yeah, it's okay.
Maybe for fun, Nico. All right. But remember, because of the autism, interesting. It's an interesting question. Anyway, because you said on the news one day, I didn't know you back then, right? I didn't know about the idea that vaccines cause autism, and you on the TV you said yes, vaccines cause autism.
No, what I said.
The way you said it.
I'll tell you what I said. I said it's on YouTube somewhere probably. I was a district attorney. I've advocated with Robert Kennedy and Del Bigtree and Polly John and her husband, and they were coming in town for that first movie, Vaxxed, and they heard that the DA in Bexar County has a son on the spectrum and that he believes his son is vaccine injured, and so they met with me and they said, "Would you talk?" And I said, "Well, I really appreciate that. You're informing people, and just informed consent means you have to be informed first, right? So we have to inform people and then let them." I've never told anyone not to vaccinate, by the way. Neither has Davi. You got to pray about it and do what you want for your children, but I just want to inform people, and that's it. And so the statement I made, and it goes, "I'm here. I'm Nico Lahood. I'm district attorney for San Antonio, Texas. I'm here to tell you that vaccines can and do cause autism. Can and do cause autism."
Okay, stop right there.
And then
We're gonna do a session on that later on, and I think, and I want to do an event because I want to do a Vax watch party, and then have this conversation because I think it's a long conversation.
It's
we
a
got
very
a lot of,
long, yeah.
But my question to you, I can imagine the inbox messages you got.
Global.
Hombre,
Global.
inbox,
Global.
no box, en la voz de todo.
I was like,
No, global.
Yeah, it was-
I'll tell
it
you
that
two
was
things.
very bold.
Global,
pretty
it was,
hardcore.
and they told me. I'll tell you the thing. So I remember Dell and Polly. They said, "Nico, you're an elected official, and you're going to be speaking from your office." He goes, "Do you have any idea what's coming? What backlash you're going to get?"
Imagine.
And I said, "There's no way I can know So no, I don't know exactly. I have an idea, but I talked to Davi about it. But how do we not speak for Michael? He's trapped in a prison, and he can't speak for himself. And I said on the thing, I'm not going to be a chicken shit, and I'm going to tell Michael's story. And it was global. I mean, there's 2 times that we've had global attacks and global support, to be fair. It was on the vaccine, and it was on the Netflix show on my brother's murder. And so, I'm talking thousands, in the thousands of my story, our situation, exactly us, my nephew, my grandchild, in support. It ends up being hundreds of thousands, but thousands for me and us when we received. And then, of course, the hate. And I'm talking England, Germany, this, Italy, that, Egypt, all over America. It was insane. It was absolutely insane.
And on that topic, I think we need to do another conversation on that.
And just talk. That's all. Just talk.
Silvia Garcia says, my grandson is high functioning. He is 22 years old. I have raised him since he was a baby. He was diagnosed when he was 12 years old.
Wow. 12, hey, really quick, just to also, you know, if it's just a grandma, also big hugs and like props to you as well, because this is talking about caregivers. You know, a lot of the times these kids have to end up, you know, for the day with their grandma or elderly, you know, some tios, whoever takes care of them. But they enable certain behaviors because it could be very agitated, it could be a little bit aggressive. So they'll enable anywhere from diet to like, you know, electronics to whatever, just so they can calm themselves down. But then that just kind of traps them a little more. So, you know, just
Well, we need to say this my mom helps out a lot.
Yes.
My mom's she's a very active grandma. My mother-in-law, if she lived here, she would never stop. She's like
totally a big shout out to her.
So my mother-in-law's in town. She does wonderful. But my mom's here all the time, and she just makes herself available. She's seasoned, as we like to say. We don't like to say older. She's very seasoned.
Miracle Palmer says, thank you both for being transparent and sharing all the emotions of the different seasons and stages of Michael's life together as a family with Christ and in Christ. Also, I love this.
Love you, Miracle.
Melinda says this, you are right. Don't underestimate what the child on the spectrum can do. Because I think a lot of situations in life, we just don't understand and we can't see God's perspective.
No,
we don't understand fully, or we don't see God's perspective.
Yeah.
And I like you said.
But it can steal your joy, Dad. I mean,
totally.
And then people misinterpret and then it turns to misery because they're not looking at an eternal perspective, and they don't. And because their plans, I mean, look, I wanted Michael, I wanted normal kids. I went through a period of time when Michael was 7, 8, 9, whatever, and he's around other 7, 8, 9-year-olds. And I'm thinking to myself, it just accentuate that your child is not quote unquote normal.
Well, I mean,
that's a
today,
reality.
You know what we're talking about? We were just talking about Michael being so strong and so just developing big and strong, and then that makes you think, you know, but he's not playing any sports. You know, he's not doing any of what the other kids are doing. When other kids are being driven to, you know, their soccer practice, the basketball practice stuff, you know, he loves to swing, so he's in his hammock at home. But also, just for the moms out there, it's really important to find that community, you know, and especially when godly women, they're able to encourage you. I have found that on Instagram a lot, and a big hug and hello to all my beautiful ladies in there that are going through similar situations. And when you're able to talk to somebody that is going through exactly the same thing that you are, and as much as our family and our friends want to support us and want to love us and want to, you know, help us through it, it's hard for me to explain to them and for them to understand as well exactly what I'm living every single day. You know, so when you find that woman or the other parent that is going through the same thing that you are, it's a beautiful and powerful, you know, just.
But Salo, we need support groups for the parents and the family.
I totally agree.
I mean, the child. That's what I said. Remember the umbrella, the 3 things. You have the other children in the family, you have the child that's on the spectrum, and then you have the couple. And I'm going to encourage men.
I was going to ask you this. What do you tell men?
Encourage men.
Because I'll tell you this. A lot of men suffer in quiet and private.
Well, but,
and because of that, sometimes they become unsupportive, and they just support. The only way they know how to support is just to be there, and
not to be there.
What I'm saying is being there without engaging.
Yes, they can be present without engaging. But I want to encourage and encourage the mommies to ask the men to be involved and say, this is a journey together. Invite them in. Don't try. Look, it's different. We all have our ideas, but mommies, there's something special about a mommy's relationship with the children. I think it's God, it's divine, and so men have this preconceived notion. Here's a reality, okay? And you're gonna, I think, agree with this. When a child is born, the daddy loves their child. but the daddy falls in love with the child over time.
Yeah.
The mommies are in love with the child immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. I mean, she loved being pregnant. She embraced every aspect. We call her the baby whisperer. You know that.
Yes.
I mean, she just embraced it, and a lot of mommies do. And I would have, if my child needed something, I would have given my life. I'm just trained that way. But I think most men would lie if they said they were just absolutely in love with their child, because that takes relationship, and they have this relationship that God designs for the women. And so bring the husband back into that. Encourage them to come back in. Don't try your best. Express the truth to them. Speak the truth in love. Ephesians 4:15. But try not to make them feel bad, because a man, at least for me, you have your idea of what you want from your kids. First of all, I wanted 4 boys, and then you know, I love the way the Lord did it, everything, by the way. And then you have this idea of what you want for your children.
Yeah.
And then there's something that happens, and then if you think it's you that led to that, so that's the other journey we'll talk about in the next show or the next podcast. But just invite them in, because there's a mourning.
Yeah.
You have to mourn.
Yeah.
You have to have you have to give the dad. I'm speaking for dads now. You and maybe the mommies do too. You have to give them permission to mourn.
Yeah.
Because there's a death of an idea.
I agree.
There's
Totally
a death of any special needs,
Totally.
whether it's autism or whether it's any other special need. Give them permission to mourn.
And then who knows what will come from that, you know, because a lot of times as a mommy, you know, because we have a closer relationship, especially with a special needs child, and you're able to understand him more. You know how to deal with him. You know how to, you know, like maneuver. You know how to calm him down. You know, but then a lot of times it's our own doing that we don't give in to the dads to be like, you know what, help me,
Got
or
it.
you do it. It doesn't matter if you're doing it right or doing it wrong. It's just the whole part of stepping in.
And then thank 'em.
You know,
Yeah.
yes, thank you, yeah, for that. Because a lot of times, because we do it certain ways and we want that control, because I do it better, or I know how to deal with them, or
You're taking
he's
too
gonna have a
long.
meltdown. You know, it's kind of no, but you want that responsibility
yeah.
for the dad as well.
So
So,
we thank God for His creative way of blessing us sometimes, you know. So we will talk more about how we can get you to bless more ladies through a podcast or through a session. We'll talk about that. Maybe we'll do another podcast to really talk about vaccines, because somebody said we need to stand up for our kids, and addressing that aspect of the vaccines, I think it's a very important topic.
Well, I mean, here's the. I'll just leave it on that. People say you guys are anti-vax. I go, we vaccinated our kid. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if we're claiming that our child is vaccine injured, then we obviously vaccinated our kid. So that's a wrong. Keep that argument somewhere else. So I'm just into causal connections, intervening causes. That's what I do for a living. I'm looking at evidence. I look at evidence, and I deal with evidence and experts for a living. We should just ask questions, and we should invite discussion.
Totally.
That's
Yes,
it.
that's
I mean,
what it is.
And I think that's what we want to do.
That's all we wanna
We
do.
want to do a session and say, okay, we believe this way. No, let's
Yeah,
have a
man.
conversation. Let's have a full conversation.
Talk it out,
Yeah,
man.
totally.
That's it. Do
I
what
think
you
we
want
can
to
get
do.
there.
But I just want to take the moment. Thanks, Salo, for taking the time, and Edith for allowing this, and Dom, and everybody, and for people to join. I want to honor my wife. You know, Romans 13 says to give honor to whom honor is due. And when I saw that video the other day, it just reminded me of a lifetime that we've been married almost 18 years now. But a lifetime, just a dedication.
Yeah.
And mommies need that support of their husband.
Right.
They need that. I mean, this equal. If a man is supposed to lead the home, then you have to lead, not manage it, right? Lead the home, and part of that leading is affirming your spouse and affirming your wife. And I just want to, I mean everything I say about her. I don't want to get brownie points. I don't believe in that shit. I'm just going to be genuine about what I say. But it's true. I mean, because the way Davi's on Insta is the way she is at home.
Yeah.
With the patience and the joy. And she does not let circumstances. When I was in politics, that's going to be part of our discussion too, when we do come back. She didn't allow any of that to steal her joy. When I was when I went to go witness the execution of my brother's murder, when we got home a week later from our getting married, she didn't allow that to steal her joy. When I was dealing with that unforgiveness, she didn't allow that. She loved me through it, and so she loves her kids. So we should affirm. You know, I want to bless her.
thank you, my
No,
love.
it's the truth.
It's a team effort, you know, and that's why it's important also for parents and then also moms to find certain outlets as well, you know, to be able to either just have communication with other moms, a support system. You know, I go shake it, and I go to my Bible studies, and I ask for, you know,
Shake
God-
it, she means dance classes.
I'm sorry.
Not everybody knows
my-
what that means.
Sorry, my dance classes.
Yeah, her dance-
and then
she
talking
teaches
about that
dance
really
classes.
quick before we go, I would love for anybody that is interested on April 24th, which is not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that, I'm going to be doing I'm going to open up a space. I'm going to be doing a little class, and it's going to be a movement class for open to ladies and mamas with special needs kids. It doesn't have to be just autism,
got it. Yeah.
with any special needs,
You'll
and it's going to be
advertise
it's just going to be open. It's a free class, so I would love to have you guys. If you're interested, you might want to just leave your email or contact me on Instagram or Facebook so I can tell you all the details. It's going to be at Lifetime on 21 and 1604, and it's going to be April 24. And again, it's just a class to connect, to move, to release, to meet people, to create a community. So if you want more information, we'll love,
the date. Give me the date again.
So it's April 24th.
11
a.m.
11 a.m.
Yes.
Good
it's
hour.
11 a.m.
So a lot of times I say that more than having problems, we have opportunities for God to show us His glory, His care, and His intention. And if you're watching this and you maybe, and people are thanking you, maybe you're like, man, Saul, I'm at that point. I'm tired. My mind is tired. My body's tired. And I've questioned God. Or, I have, like Nico says, maybe I need to address some things in my heart. I'll tell you this. God is so creative in using the worst situations and bringing beauty out of anything in your life. So let that happen today. Before we go, Nico, could you pray for parents that have kids on the spectrum? A lot of people put their names. And maybe for families that maybe are going through what you went and they need they need a touch from God.
Sure. Well, Lord, we come into your presence with gratitude and thanksgiving, as Psalm 100 says. We also come with humility, knowing that you are the architect of life and that you can use everything. Your scripture is true. It's authoritative. We believe it. And you can use all circumstances. You didn't even spare your own son to go through something so challenging to bring something so beautiful as our salvation. And we believe the same thing with our children. Look, we can't do that without you. We need your grace, the strength to do things we can't do, the wisdom to handle circumstances that's not from us, it's from heaven. To have the support of friends and family, to have a herd around us, the herd where the enemy can't touch. And we can just encourage each other like Timothy needed Barnabas and the disciples, and Jesus needed comforting in his human form by the angels when he went to go pray alone himself, Lord. And so we pray for these families. All of us are individuals and we're unique because you designed us that way.
Yes.
Will you touch each person that is asking for prayer and speak to them in the way they need to be spoken to? You know exactly what, not everyone's the same. Speak to them, encourage them. We all need encouragement. We need that spiritual B12 shot, as I say. Will you please inject a spiritual B12 shot, just that beautiful vitamin of spiritual encouragement to each person that is praying, pray together, that you send them an encourager, that if the spouses are having trouble, that they reconcile with the strength and the help of the Holy Spirit, that they find joy again, knowing that the joy comes from you, the joy of the Lord. You are the Prince of Peace, Shalom. And so I pray that over these families and give them that encouragement so they can just take another step, knowing that we have eternity waiting for us. There's a purpose in our children. There's a purpose in the special needs community, and help us to find it and help us to use it with all the gifts so we can glorify you ultimately and walk on this side of heaven honoring you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Guys, thank you very much. You have a good night. Share this video and follow Davi.
Forget Nico.
Forget us. Forget Howard.